We did the block grant because it's going to allow 2 years to really listen to schools, talk to average Kansans that are paying the bills for all of this, and trying to build a new formula that meets constitutional muster and works for the students of Kansas. Southeast Kansas schools are receiving more money from the state today than when I first took office. It's a big priority for me. I come from a family of educators. I'm a product of the poorest school district in the state of Kansas, and so education is personal to me. And so I'm really proud of the investments that have been made, and for me, I'm going to continue to make it a priority. What I don't think a lot of people understand is that for every dollar that a taxpayer sends to Topeka, 50 cents of it is going to K through 12 education. That's our largest line item in the budget, and it should be. Look at average salaries, for example. If you look on the Missouri side at Nevada, Carl Junction, and Joplin and compare it to Fort Scott, Pittsburgh, and Galena, all 3 Kansas schools have a higher average salary than the best of those 3 Missouri schools that I mentioned. And so our priority in education, it's reflected in the state budget, and you see it as a competitive advantage locally. I think for decades now you'll have teachers cross the state line, Kansas to Missouri and Missouri to Kansas. I think that's common practice, but our average salaries are higher than Missouri. Education is a big priority in Kansas. I think that we stack up really well. Capers has been traditionally overlooked. Since I've been in the legislature, we have made record investments into Capers. It is in the very best position it's been in nearly a decade. I'm proud of that. I think that teachers can look at confidence to their retirement. It's something that we're going to continue to have to look at and make a priority. But look, we're investing more money into schools. We want money to get to the classroom. That's important. We also have to invest in Capers. I think they're both valuable educational expenditures, and I'm going to continue to make them a priority. We were in a tight situation where it was necessary to block grant. What we did in the block grant was say that we were going to give schools the amount of money that they received the year before and give them that same amount of money with some increases in it over the 2-year period of time. So for the schools in Southeast Kansas, it's worked out pretty well this year. We're going to wait and see next year what enrollment numbers are, but this year it's worked out okay. And I think it's going to give us time to build a formula. So if you had a school district that had an enormous enrollment increase, they would be able to be compensated for that. None of the schools in Southeast Kansas applied for that funding. So they're also able to get money for virtual school students, and you've seen school districts take advantage of that as well. I think that we have to make schools a priority. To me, it is an enormous priority. It's personal to me. I think that if you go across the state to the highway department or the corrections department or education, they're all going to say that they need more money to perform the duties that they provide. It's important. But what we have to do as a legislature is pay attention to those that are paying the bills, make sure that we have a competitive tax structure so that we can grow the Kansas economy, and we also have to make investments in things that are important to Kansans, and education is at the top of that list. Well, from the time that was done before I got into office, since I've been there, I have done everything I can to make sure we're paying the bills every year. And as I said, I'm proud that the schools in my district are receiving more money from the state today than they were when I took office.
But are the tax cuts making it difficult to fund education?
Well, this year in the state of Kansas, we're struggling with revenue estimates. It's been a problem, there's no question. And we fixed the problem based on the revenue estimates that have come in, but the estimates have been wrong. So that's been the problem. It's tough to fix a problem when the estimates have been a moving target. What I've said and what I believe in is that education does not need to be cut. I will not support cutting education. I have not supported a cut to education one time since I've been in the legislature, and I will continue to hold that position. There's been a lot of political fights going on across the state. I think that it's unfortunate. I value Kansas teachers. My dad, my wife, my brother, they're all educators, and so it really matters to me. I think that we would do well for the legislature to show that teachers are a priority. Look, I mean, you have a limited amount of resources with which to do important things like education and build roads. And so I think that there's a lot of bad information out there. I would encourage anyone that is interested in the facts to go look it up. And you'll find that schools have received more funding, not as much funding as they would like, no question about that, but they have received more funding. And as far as I'm concerned, they'll continue to receive funding that they can count on. We had an old formula that had been in the courtrooms for 2 decades, and it's time to build a new one. It's a 2-year measure. I think kids are going to get what they need at school, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we build a formula that works and focuses on student outcomes. I think that's what we're all focused on, or it's at least what we should all be focusing on, are, how are kids doing in the classroom.